This is an interview with Ms. Annetta Streeter-Gary for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're presently at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Today is June 4th, 1998. Ms. Gary, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and sit and talk with me about the movement and really Birmingham today. Welcome to the Institute.
Thank you.
Let me just ask you, were you born in Birmingham?
Yes, I was born in Birmingham.
You were born in Birmingham. Were your parents born in Birmingham?
Yes, both of my parents were from Birmingham also.
Okay. What part of town did you live in when you were growing up?
The majority of my years was spent in Titusville.
In Titusville. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have two sisters.
Okay.
I'm the older of three.
Okay. Now, your mother and father, what about their education? How much education do they have?
My mother was a graduate of Tuskegee Institute,
Okay.
and my father completed 2 years at Miles College.
And what kind of work did they do?
My mother was a youth director for the Black YWCA, and my father was about self-employed.
Okay. Where was his barbershop?
In West End on Long Boulevard.
Oh, is that right? Where on Long?
800 Long Boulevard. I think Taco Bell is right next to the area now.
800 Long.
Mm-hmm.
Is that down near the hospital?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Right
The
across.
parking lot sits right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Tell me, do you remember your first grade teacher?
I went to Catholic school
Mm-hmm.
in my first grade.
Okay. What school?
St. Mary's in Fairfield.
Oh, is that right? Okay. What kind of memories do you have of your elementary school years?
Fourth grade, I was allowed to transfer to public education. I went to Washington Elementary School, where W.C. Matson was my principal. Very fine man. I have several teachers that I remember during that time. Mrs. Towns, who was my 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Baldwin, who was my 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Beans, my 6th grade teacher. Those are just some of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the nuns that taught you in those first few years?
Not by name, but I remember the experience. At that time, Catholic schools were very, very strict, and at one time I thought I wanted to be a nun.
Is that right?
Yes, because of the influence of the teachers.
Right.
And I knew at a very, very early age that I wanted to be a teacher. But then that kind of runs in my family also. I'm from a family of educators.
Right. Now, your mother was a graduate of Tuskegee.
Right.
Did you go to Tuskegee?
No, I was the first one in my family that chose to go somewhere else.
Is that right? Okay.
I'm a graduate of Miles. Graduated from Miles in 1970. Then I did further studies at UAB. I got my master's from UAB.
Okay. Now, in those early days, you went to Catholic school. What was the transition like from Catholic school to the public school?
One difference was I was used to white teachers.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Catholic school, none of my teachers were black. All of them was white nuns. When I went to public school, then it was completely different.
All of them were black.
All of them was black.
What kind of difference did that make? Were there?
Well, I was looking out the eyes of little people, so it did not make a lot of difference.
Right. Well, what about the the school itself, was Washington larger than
Yes.
St. Mary's?
Washington was larger. Classrooms, even at that time, the classroom were larger, the number of children in the classroom. I remember when I first started to St. Mary's, we were living in Powder Hill, and we rode the school bus. But we later moved to Titusville, and we had to walk across from Titusville over to 3rd Avenue to catch the bus to go to St. Mary's. And we would pass Illerton Elementary School. And my father would always say, one day black children will be able to go to Washington. And you know,
I mean, to Illerton.
to Illerton.
Because Illerton was a white school.
Right. But we didn't see that. We didn't see that.
You didn't see that
No.
would ever be a possibility that you would be able to go to the Illerton school.
No.
Well, in walking from Titusville to 3rd Avenue, that was a pretty good
That was
distance.
a long walk.
Did your father walk with you every day?
Well, from the beginning they would, but from the beginning my mother and my father would walk us across to 3rd Avenue, but then it was two of us going. My sister also went, and finally they let us do it alone.
After you had become accustomed to
Right.
that
Right.
walk. Yeah. Now, at Washington School, being a larger school, did that have any impact upon, again, you're viewing this from the eyes of a child, were there any differences in the instruction, differences in the ways that you were treated?
No, we were treated with love at Washington. We were like a family. And I guess the same thing was true for St. Mary's. I do remember that at St. Mary's we had more equipment than we did from Washington, than we did at Washington. But my instructions, I don't feel was any less.
Do you know why your parents decided to send you to Washington School?
Because after we moved to Titusville, the majority of the kids in the neighborhood was going to Washington, and of course we had a fit. We wanted to go to Washington. And as you said, it was a long walk across from Titusville across to 3rd Avenue. That was a good little walk. So I think it was a number of reasons that we were allowed to transfer.
Then after Washington, where'd you go?
And I went to Oldham High School, where George Bell was my principal. And I have one teacher that really stands out in my mind, and that's Miss Odessa Woodfall, who was my 11th grade American history teacher and my 12th grade world history teacher. And she was a little woman that really made a big impact on my life.
Yeah.
Yes,
Why were you so impressed with Woodfall?
First of all, she's a very, very intelligent woman. And she was able to, her classes were, she made them so lifelike. You know, like you were there.
Right.
She was just a good instructor. And I remember that was during the civil rights movement. And a lot of teachers, after they found out that I had gone to jail, you know, they did not look too highly on that. But Miss Woodfall made a big to-do about it, you know. She made me feel like a hero. And it was just her demeanor, the way she treated us, you know, it was like we were a part of her.
Right.
And I know a lot of things she could not say and a lot of things she could not do because her job was at stake. But she would just casually turn her head and pretend she didn't know what was going on, you know.
Mhm.
But
Let me just ask you about the neighborhood, growing up in Titusville. What kind of community was it?
okay, Titusville was a middle class community for blacks. We had teachers, doctors. Uh, it was a good community for blacks at that time.
What part of Titusville did you live?
I lived right off of Goldwine.
Okay. Birmingham in the 50s, 60s, termed the most segregated city in the country. What was it like growing up in Birmingham at that time?
Okay. In the 50s, I can often remember going to movies with my father on Sundays, and no one would be on the bus but us. But yet we had to go to the back of the bus, and we were very inquisitive little girls, and we wanted to know why. I never will forget. I guess I had to have been about 12 years old. Maybe not quite that old. And we got up on the bus on 6th Avenue, going downtown to the movie. And my daddy decided that we weren't going to sit on the back of the bus that day. And he got us and he set us up on the front and he sat there with us. And the bus driver pulled over right there where Ann and Pete's store used to be. He pulled over and he told my father that either he was going to move back or he was going to call the police. And I remember it was several older women on the bus, and they told my daddy that you don't do anything like that when you have children with you.
Black women.
Black women, right. They kind of chastised him because we were crying, we were upset. You know, all we knew was that the bus driver was going to call the police on our daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, very devastating to us.
Mm-hmm.
So he got us and he moved us back to the back of the bus, and the bus driver went on. Never did call the police. And my dad often told us that we could have made history if y'all just wouldn't have cried. You know?
Yeah.
We were so young and we did not understand.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a thing in our house where my mother and father always taught us that regardless of the color of our skin, that or our race, because you can look at the color of my skin and see that, you know, unless you just knew that I was black, you would not be able to tell.
Right.
But they always taught us that we were as good as the next man.
Mm-hmm.
This was the way that we were taught, and we were from a loving family, a family that did not think that race should have been an issue.
Were both your mother and father light skinned?
Yes.
Were there any problems as a result of your being so light skinned, living
Right.
in a black community?
Right. And you know, especially with me being so involved in the civil rights movement, it would really, really hurt my feelings. And when my little friends would get angry, as long as we were okay, you know, it was fine. But when they would get angry, they would call me half white or something like that, and that really, really bothered me as a child. But like I said, we had parents that was able to sit us down and explain, you know, that we don't control our color. You know, that's just like the white man. holding us down because we are black. You know, we are not in control of our colors.
Right.
Like I said, my mother and my father were both light skinned, and my genes, you know, I had no choice
Right.
but to be light complexion.
Yeah.
But yes, it was all the way as a child, and even now I have people, you know, to question me about my race.
I've known that there were people that were lighter skinned that actually went to, say, the Alabama Theater. One of the things that I always wanted to do, didn't grow up in Birmingham, wanted to go to Alabama. Never could. But I had friends who would pass, and they actually went to the Alabama Theater. Did you ever do anything such as that?
No, I mean, that was something that I was just adamant about. I wanted, you know, I was black, and there was no doubt about it in my mind, you know, and regardless of what others said, you know, no, never had any desires to pass. Never, I have not ever had problems with my heritage.
You never thought about using that to your advantage just to get back at white folk by going into something that, you know, as a black person, you never would have been able to, but because they would not know it, you never thought about doing that.
No.
Yeah.
Ironically, I was one of the first to go to the Alabama Theater after the civil rights laws were passed.
Right, right. Almond was a real institution, and there was always this big rivalry between Almond and Parker. Why did you decide to go to Almond rather than going to Parker? Because I know that there was some that lived in Tizwell that did go to Parker.
I guess maybe because I went to Washington, and the majority of my classmates went to Almond. I had enrolled for Parker, and at the last moment decided that I was going to go to Almond. And now I have no regrets.
How did you get involved with the movement?
I was in a social and saving club at the time. Charlotte, no, I'm sorry, that wasn't the club I was in. The Peace Ponies.
Peace Ponies.
Peace Ponies. Not because of the movement, and that was just the name of our little club. And
why do you remember why you named it the Peace Ponies?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't remember how we came up with that name. I do remember that it was 8 of us, and
girls and boys.
Just girls. Just girls. And we were 10th and 11th graders. And they were all from Titusville. All of us grew up right around.
Like a social and savings club.
Yes. And the first time, the way we got involved, we came to a couple of the rallies over to 16th Street Baptist Church.
The group?
The club. And then we got so that we were following the movement around.
Why did you decide to go the first time you went? How did that?
I really don't remember exactly why we went to that first meeting, but I know after we went to that first meeting, we decided that this was something that we were going to do as a project, our club. And we would go to the meetings, to the rallies. On Saturdays, they would have training. We would come to the training.
So you went to the mass meetings regularly?
Right.
How would you describe a mass meeting?
I remember the first time I heard Dr. King speak. It was as if he was hypnotizing you. And I would look around and the people in the audience, and even as young teenagers. My other friends and I, we would just be, when we leave out the meeting, you know, it was just like we needed to do something right then. Right then, we were sitting back and we could hardly wait until they started the demonstrations. Like I said, we were going to the trainings. Tell you another adult that would pick us up and take us. She was a friend of my mother, Lucinda B. Robeson. Miss Robeson would take us down on Saturdays to the meetings if we did not have a way.
Yeah. So this then simply became a part of you.
A part.
And you look forward to doing it. And it appears that if that had been ended prematurely, you would have missed that
Right.
part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Now you went to the training sessions. What were training sessions like?
They would, I remember Jose, what is this? Can't think of his name.
From Atlanta, Reverend. I'm thinking I have a friend named Jose Mixer. That makes it. Now I know you're talking about.
Okay.
I'll think about it.
Well, he was one of the ones that was training us, and what we would do, they would talk to us about nonviolence, how regardless of what someone did to you, then you were to just resist them, and
You were to resist them, or you were not to resist them.
You were not to resist them, not to resist them.
Right.
I'm sorry. And they also showed us how we made signs. They talked to us about what we were to say when we were arrested, if we were arrested, because at that time a lot of parents lost their jobs because children were participating.
Did you know anybody personally that lost their job?
No, I didn't know anybody personally, but I was told it.
In the meetings, the mass meetings.
Right. Because in the mass meetings, they would have different ones who had already been arrested come up and tell their stories or tell what had happened to them.
Right. You said you were really impressed by Dr. King.
Really impressed by Dr. King.
Did you see him more than once?
More than once. I cannot count the number of times that I've seen Dr. King. And I tell my children at school, you know, a lot of times people who were not involved in the movement, you know, after everything was over with them, of course, Dr. King became a hero to them. But he was a hero to me even before this. You know, it was just something about him. I knew that he was God sent. And that meant a whole lot.
You remember your first demonstration?
Yes. Well, the first demonstration I was involved in, I was not arrested. It was during the time when Dr. King was in the county jail. And we went, it wasn't very many of us. We went down and along with some preachers, I guess it was a group of about 25, 30, maybe somewhere in there. It wasn't a very large group. And we went down and we kneeled on the steps and the preachers prayed and we sung. And I never will forget that the fire chief came up. But for whatever reason, they did not do anything. They just stood by silently.
And you were not,
They did not do anything on that particular day. It's on a Sunday. And they didn't do anything. And after we prayed and we disbanded. And I think it was maybe the next Saturday that I was arrested for the first time.
What were the circumstances of your arrest?
We marched down, we left 16th Street. No, let me take that back. We were dropped right on 3rd Avenue, right there by Lomas, and we marched from that corner up to the alley that was in between Lomas and New Barracks, and that was where we was picked up. And we were taken to the Jefferson County.
Did you have signs?
Yes.
You know, you marched, and what were the signs say?
Freedom today, tomorrow.
And had you all just planned to march, or were you going into New
We were
Barracks?
just going to, what we were trying to do was to keep people from going in. We were marching because that was after they refused to let blacks eat at the lunch counter in New Barracks. And so what we were doing was picketing so that blacks would not go into New Barracks.
So when you were arrested, what do you remember about the arrest?
I remember when we were taken to the county jail. We were fingerprinted. They took our pictures. Then they began to question us. They asked our name. Well, let me go back a step. The first thing that was asked of me when I got up there, the matron or police matron or whatever she was called, looked and she said, "What are you doing in here?" And I said, "I want my freedom." And she just laughed. That was so funny to her. And when I said I was black, she called several other people in to see me because at that time I was a little girl with little long pigtails, you know, and she just had no idea that I was black. But what they did, they separated us. They took the ones from my complexion, I guess, almost down to your complexion. And they put us in a separate group from the rest of them. And they put us in a day room that had no facilities for sleeping or anything like that. Just had a big iron table and iron benches. They said that was where the prisoners would come during the day. And they put the others back in the cells.
So they separated you by color.
By color.
So the darker ones they put in the cells. Is that right? Oh, that's interesting. See, I told you, every time I interview somebody, I found out something a little bit different. I never heard that before.
Yes, they did. This was at Jefferson County jail. Not many children went to Jefferson County. This was before D-Day, before May 3rd.
Right.
It was in the latter part of April, maybe about the middle of April.
Oh, okay. How long did you remain in jail?
I was arrested on Saturday morning and stayed until Monday night.
What was it like?
It was an experience that it just can't be. You know, I remember the closing of the doors. Those doors closing. And I really thought my mother and father had told me that I was too young and all of this. I think they were more worried about us getting hurt.
Safety,
Right. You know, because like I said earlier, my father definitely believed in immigration. It was just that he did not want to see us hurt. And I kind of thought at the time that maybe they were right. That
while you were there.
Yes.
So you had second thoughts.
I had second thoughts, and we had one matron that came on in the evening shift that was not so bad, but those other, jailers or whatever they were called,
Now, were they black or white?
they were white.
Mhm.
They were white.
And they were tough. Huh?
They were tough. They were tough. The food, could not eat the food, period. There was no way to eat the food. They had us scrubbing gave us rags to scrub along the front of the cells. And if you were too loud or whatever, you were given extra duties, extra things to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many people were in the day room with you? Was it a large
It was
number?
a large day room. It was, because on that group, it wasn't, but about the 8 of us, my club members also.
All of you were
All of
together
us,
in
yes.
that?
All of us went.
So all of you were light skinned?
No, all of us were not in the day room.
Oh, okay.
The 8 of us, when I was trying to figure out about how many children were locked up that day, I guess it might have been about 20 of us. 8 of them was my club members and myself.
Right.
And the other, no, I take that back, it was 7 of us because we had one that did not go the first time.
Mm-hmm.
In the day room, I guess it might have been about 8 of us.
Okay. Were there beds in there?
No,
No bed.
it was just a table.
Where did you sleep?
What happened was at night, when the night matron came on, remember I said that she was nicer to us? And she allowed us to bunk up with the ones that was in the back. So what we did was kind of double up so that everybody could have somewhere to sleep.
Okay. And you were there until Monday
Monday night.
What were the circumstances of your release?
They came up, the civil rights movement had gotten people to put their houses up. And they came up and called our name. I had on a new sweater. I ran off and left the sweater, never
looked back.
Never looked back.
That sounds like you were glad to hear your name called.
I was glad to hear my name called.
And did you go home right after you were released, or did you go back to the movement, to the meeting?
We went, I think we went to the meeting the next night, because it was so late that night, we went home. And then we reported to the meeting, and this time we went to Bethel Baptist Church over in Collegeville, Fred Shuttlesworth Church.
Right.
And we gave an account of what had happened to us at that time.
Well, in the meantime, you went to school Monday morning. No, you didn't get out until Monday night. So you went to school Tuesday morning.
Right.
Now, what was that reception like? I know you mentioned that there were some teachers, but there was then. What about the students?
Well, they were real interested about what had happened, and you've been to jail, we were still 15, 16 years old, So it was impressive to them. And we had several kids that was beginning to become involved in the movement. This was, like I said before, D-Day. And well, in my class, it was not as many because I was in an accelerated class, and for whatever reason, the kids in that class did not participate like other students at Oman High School.
D-Day.
D-Day.
Did you go to school that morning?
I went to school.
Tell me about how did that day start?
Okay.
Before you tell me about the day, tell me about the night before.
The night before, we had gone to the demonstrations, and they had told us that they were going to come around to the various schools and they encouraged us to go to school, not, because a lot of kids was talking about just not going to school, but that was not the effect that they wanted. They wanted you to go to school, and then, so that we could really help to turn the children out of school. And, I remember as the day wore on, no one showed up, and we thinking, well, what's going on? It was like
No one from the movement showed up.
Right. And finally, they got over to Auburn, and I think that it was about 1,000 some children came out of Auburn High School on that day. And when I think about it now, I had never just really sit down and thought about that day until you asked that question. I can remember now the feeling, it was just like, it's here, it's about to happen, and the joy of seeing all these children coming out to participate in the movement. It's a feeling that you just can't describe.
One of those feelings that you enjoyed it so much that there's just not words to describe.
It's not words
exactly
to describe it, exactly.
What did the teachers and Mr. Bell do that day?
Mr. Bell was running around like a chicken with his head cut out. Mr. Bell did not want us to leave that school. One teacher, like I said, Miss Woodfall, turned like she did not see. Miss Golry was another teacher that acted as if she did not see. But now we had a number of teachers that told us that we were wrong, that we were breaking laws, and we were putting our parents' jobs in jeopardy, and that we would be penalized.
That didn't stop it.
That did not stop us. No.
So did you left Elman in mass
In math.
and marched where?
We came down to 16th Street Baptist Church, and they were going out in groups. We went out in groups. As soon as one group cleared, then another group, the idea was that they were not going to be able to, they did not have enough police to stop each group.
All those numbers, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelly Ingram Park, as far as you could see, was just people, just everywhere. Which was a difference because, like I said, when we first started, the first couple of demonstrations that I took part in was 15, 20 people.
Yeah.
So that was
the children had not been enlisted when you first started.
Right, children had not been enlisted.
Right.
Well, they were using the college students at that time, Miles College students.
Mm-hmm. And then when they started to get all of the high school and junior high school students involved, that's what overwhelmed the city.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Jose Williams.
Dr. Williams.
Yeah. Who came to Elman that day?
Jose
did.
Williams.
Okay. Now, explain to me, if you can remember, what it was like leaving 16th Street Baptist Church in the group of folk that you left with, and what did you see, and how did that impact on you?
Leaving out in the basement, because that's where we left from, down in the basement. As we came out and we had our signs and all, I remember I started crying. When I looked up and I saw all the people and I guess it was just the idea of what was about to take place. Things that we had heard about, that Dr. King had talked about, and how the movement was just moving forward. It was just overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Were your club members with you that day?
Right.
Were all of you together?
No, we were separated.
Mhm.
I think it was three or four of us together in one group and 3 or 4 in another group.
When you got out onto the street, what did you do?
We went around the corner, and I guess that must have been on 17th Street. When we got right around the corner from 17th Street, that was when the water hose met us.
Were you hit with the water?
Yes. I, by me being small, I was one of the first ones in line, along with one of my club members, Jackie Rip. And we had been taught that if they put the water hose on, to sit down and cover your face so that the pressure of the water would not hurt your eyes. Right. But we were told to sit down, and if we balled up into knots, then the water would not hurt as much. But that was not so. That water washed the two of us. I can remember us balling up, huddling together, and the water just washing us down the street.
You were sitting
and balled up,
and
the water just washing us.
Mm.
Just washing us down
forceful.
Forceful. It was like pins, maybe. Pins sticking in your arms. Your arms and legs and things. Water was very, very forceful.
Then, did you then find yourself eventually getting up and going back to the church?
Going back to the church. And what I did was to leave the church and go home to change clothes. My other club member did not leave, and she was arrested on that day. She was arrested again on that day.
So she had been arrested with you before?
Right.
She got arrested again
on D-Day.
Prior to getting back to the church?
Yes.
Did you know that she had been arrested before you got back?
No, I did not know until I got back. Because I thought that she was going. I looked up and saw my parents. My parents had come down, and like I said, I went home to change clothes because I was soaked.
Did you come back? You
came back down.
Did your parents bring you back down?
They brought me back.
Is that right?
They brought
so
me
they were apprehensive.
They were apprehensive, but yet they knew that this was something that I truly believed in. And I guess they felt like, well, she's been to jail before, so.
Were they involved? Were your parents involved?
No more than like I told you, when my father had us to sit on that seat. But no, they did not.
Did they attend any of the mass meetings?
Yes, they began to attend the mass meetings after the first time that I was arrested. Then they began to attend the meetings and because the day that the water was put on me, they did not even know that I had come down. They just happened to be standing out around.
Oh, so they were not aware. You didn't tell them where you were going then?
No, I did not tell them I was going that day. But they took me home and I changed clothes and they brought me back downtown.
Were you ever arrested again after
No.
the first time?
No, I was never arrested again. I tried, especially when everyone else, all my other club members were in jail, because all of the others they managed to get arrested on D-Day for the second time. But I was not arrested.
Do you remember the night that the 80 King's home was bombed and AG Gas Motel was bombed? Where were you that night? Were you at home?
I was at home, but we got in the car and we came down.
You with your mother?
My father brought us down. And that's also the night that, Attorney Shaw's house was bombed. Is that not correct?
Mhm.
Because I remember going over there, when we left from downtown.
Mhm. There were guards at the various homes and churches, and in fact in communities as well.
Yes.
Do you remember anyone in your community standing guard?
My father and several of the other men in the neighborhood set up night patrols, and they had someone posted right there on the corner of Green Spring and Go Wide. They had someone posted right at the entry on 15th Avenue off of Green Spring where it comes down here, because that's the area. Someone around by West Center Street School, just all over the neighborhood, anywhere where a car could come in, they had someone posted.
Do you know if they were armed?
Probably they were.
I've talked to various people, and some said yes, and some said no. I had one person say, well, I was not, but others were.
Well, that's the way it was. My dad did not believe in weapons. And I know that he was not, but like you said, I know that some were.
Right.
Because everyone did not believe in nonviolence.
September 15, 1963, 16th Street Baptist Church.
Okay.
Where were you?
We were home that Sunday, and when the church was bombed, it was a cast. It was like a dark cast on that day. Just looked the day, just looked like a gray day. It happened that Cynthia Wesley was in my sister's class. Denise McNeil, father, and my mother had finished Tuskegee together. The little Robinson girl, Carol Robinson, father was a music teacher. Carol Robinson, father was a music teacher at Washington Elementary School. The only one that we were not connected some kind of way with was Allen Collins. And my grandmother was a member of 16th Street Baptist Church before her death. So I was familiar with the church and everything. It's a sad day.
Where were you a member? Did your family go to church?
We went to Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Church.
Right. That was the picture that I get of that day. Someone else has said that it was a great day. It was a great day in Birmingham. And it's this, spiritually it was one of those creepy days. I know if you knew, the children that died, it had to have been. Did you attend the funerals?
Yes, I did. I attended along with my club member. We attended the funerals. We did not attend Carol Robinson, but the three funerals that was held together at 6th Avenue.
Turbulent times. What did you do after finishing at Oldham High School?
After finishing Oldham High School, I attended Miles College and I received my BS in 1970. And I later followed my education at UAB. And in 1970, I became a teacher for Birmingham City Board of Education.
Where did you teach? What school?
I taught 1 year in Patterson, 2 years at Coleman Elementary, which was predominantly white. And for the last 25 years, I've been at Hudson Middle School in Collegeville.
Collegeville. What was it like going to Coma?
My first year of teaching, I taught at Patterson up under Dr. John Callow. I had a blackboard and 50 children in the classroom. The next year, because of immigration, I was moved to Coleman because we had to have a certain ratio of black to white teachers. And so I was moved to Coleman Elementary School where it was maybe 2 blacks per classroom. And this was a very, very small neighborhood school in Crestline. It was a middle class school where in Patterson was in low poverty area. At Coleman, we had everything you could think of to work with the children, wherein at Patterson, we did not. Even at that time, the classroom load was 25.
Versus 52.
Versus 50.
Mm-hmm.
And all you had to do was, if you wanted to do the job, all you had to do was to tell them what you wanted to work with, and those parents provided for you to work with those kids. I asked to be transferred back to a black school because I felt like if I was going to work with children, I wanted to work with my own children. And I was sent to Hudson Middle School. Well, it was Hudson Elementary School at the time, which was the largest school in the city of Birmingham. At the time, we had 1,800 children. Again, I was
in an elementary school.
in elementary school. Again, I was back to the 40-something in the classroom versus the way schools are now.
Were you still living in Titusville at the time?
No. I had married and moved away from Tennessee.
How would you characterize Birmingham, the changes in Birmingham over time based upon what we've talked about today?
I think as far as immigration is concerned, I think that it has helped us in a lot of ways in that we are able to, the opportunities are there, and all we have to do is to take advantage of them. I think it has hurt us in other ways. Ways I think that it has hurt us is we have lost the closeness of our communities. We've lost the closeness of our families. Our children have lost their heritage. They don't realize how far we have come, and they're not taking advantage of it. I feel like with the grace of God and education, that the children can do anything that they want to do. However, they're not taking advantage of the situation. I think our parents need to wake up when I was a child, parents we could not go everywhere, we did not have a whole lot. But that we had, our parents, taught us to appreciate, and they taught us the value of an education. And they gave us love. Now the parents are, well, it's not all of them, you know that, but I feel like that we have a lost generation, and if we don't reach back and pull our children up, then we're going to be in a worse shape than we were 25, 20, 30 years ago. Because at that time they had our bodies, wherein now they have our minds.
I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. You've been very helpful, and your analysis, is very enlightening. So, thank you for coming. Is there anything else that we did not cover that you would like to leave?
Yes, I would like to state that I was one of the very first. I was privileged to be one of the first to integrate the Holiday Inn on 3rd Avenue. Also, hot dog stand that was on the same street as Newberry's. Can't think of the name of it.
19th Street.
19th Street.
Right.
Was first to integrate that hot dog shop. The Lyric Theater.
I mean, you went downstairs.
I
in
went
the
downstairs. The Melba Theater up on 3rd Avenue, and also the Alabama Theater. And that was due to, Miss Robeson chose other kids as well as myself to test the law after it had been passed. So I got a chance to do that.
Pioneer.
Pioneer.
Great. Certainly appreciate it.
I thank you.
You have really enlightened us, and I'm sure this tape will be a part of the collection of many others, and it simply can only enhance what we've already done.
Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you very much.